Good day to everyone. This is the virtual film company here on Spatial IO, and my name is John Harvey, and I have Mystery and Chris with us. And today we're going to be talking mainly about the fear of AI, but we're also going to be talking about a couple of other topics and how they relate to AI. For example, some new developments in the LLM field with Claude, and it's going to be another exciting show. So thank you for joining us, and I'm going to hand it over to Chris.
All right. Yes, correct, John. Yes, it will be interesting as always. And yeah, we will talk about the fear of AI today. Definitely, it's one our main topic, but we also have some news to cover. And again, we're doing this bi-weekly here. So every 2 weeks, a lot of stuff is happening, a lot of news. And yeah, you already mentioned that there was a big announcement of a new AI large language model. And that came from the company called Anthropic AI. And the name of the model is Claude, and this is Claude number 3. So it's the third iteration, however, to call it, of these large language models. And well, this one, well, they say, does outperform ChatGPT 4 in very different spaces, let's say, right? And it should also outperform Google's Gemini in different spaces. So it's a big announcement, and we can see that the race is still going on, and everyone is putting more data into the models. So we can go up to 1 million informations, let's say. And you can, in this case here, the business model of Anthropic is that you can pay for inputting 1 million instructions, let's say, into this model, and or getting also large text out of the model. Like the answer can be up to 1 million instructions in the end, but you have to pay certain money for that. So
it was impressive.
Yeah.
For sure. The way it analyzed that what you shared, the Great Depression, analyzed like all these documents that were just inputted in and they were written in and not perfect. And, for a documentary filmmaker to be able to create something out of it, very impressive.
Definitely. It's for sure showing those abilities, because we have to explain that also Claude now is a multimodal. So it can do different things. It's not just text, it can also analyze images. And they said that on their website, that the visual capabilities are really, really good. And those multimodal models are basically everywhere now. ChatGPT can do that. ChatGPT can write code, analyze an image, and so on, like Gemini from Google can do, and now also Claude. And for Claude, they say, and again, that's something, yeah, maybe you have to be careful about that stuff, but they say that the capabilities are 10% better in certain tests than GPT-4, for example. So the graduate level reasoning, that's a test, let's say, GPT-4 comes to 35.7%, and Claude comes up to 50%, stuff like that. And also math problem solving. ChatGPT does 52.9% and Claude does 60%. Now, on top of that, we have to explain that Claude comes in 3 different versions. There is a small version, there's a middle version, and there's a big version. And the small version is called Haiku. The middle version is called Sonnet. and the high-end version is Opus. And those numbers that I told you are for Opus. So that's the best one, the biggest one, and probably the most expensive one. And the model Haiku, for example, the smallest one, it ranges in performance in between of GPT 3.5 and GPT 4. But again, it's the smallest of all of them and already, well, somehow keeps up with the big ones. So we can see that not just a company like OpenAI is able to, advance fast. Also other companies like Anthropic, they can. So the race is not over, and it's really, really interesting to see who's going to win in the end.
I agree. I mean, to me, it's like sitting back, like absorbing and processing all of this information as we're seeing it unfold. Even in that video, it's like they talk about how long GPT has not been out that long, to where you're just sitting back going, I see why people are afraid of AI and whatnot. And to me, it's like, even in these informations that it's breaking down, you take an average person to where like of average intelligence to just be asking questions and inquiring about these things, and then getting, like, I'm looking at it as, who is this person, like, from an intellectual standpoint talking to? Because they also were doing things on what the economy is going to look like in years. And it's like, these are huge, huge questions, to where it's like some of the most brilliant minds we have in the world, it would be interesting to see what they would think that this is. And then with the information that you're getting, that it's like consulting multiple, it's really kind of mind-blowing, to where you're going, wow, the amount of data that's being thought of, processed, calculated. This is impressive. So these resources that we have, the world's changed forever. There's no putting this genie back in the bottle. Like, we have some amazing technologies that are, how are we going to work with them? I think that's like the powerful questions for the future. Instead of being afraid, like, what is our path?
Right. John, do you want to add something? Otherwise, we would have to go to the next topic.
The interesting thing about, Claude to me, and the subscription fee, at least here in the US, for the Opus model is $20 a month. But the interesting and attractive thing to me is not the ability to generate image, analyze video, or anything like that, but the fact that it is capable of 200,000 tokens, which equates to equivalent of 150,000 words in each language, which is a fair-sized book. So, it's amazing that these models can actually now write so much text. And, just to go back to what Mystery said, one of the things that, I mean, there's all this hype about AI, and I think I was at a meeting this morning where we were talking about, what happened to Metaverse. Well, Metaverse basically still there, and we're sitting in it right now. And next year, people are going to be asking, what happened to AI? Well, AI is going to be so incorporated into everything that we're going to be on to the next thing. And the point I wanted to make here, just to illustrate this, is that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, GPT was in existence. It wasn't that great. There were a few companies using it, but very, very few people were aware of it. So it took, 2 years for us to reach this point of awareness. And to me, that is rather fascinating. And of course,
the thing that I think is interesting with that point that you said right there, John, is this. So we were using Jarvis, right, to where then it became Jasper. And we've talked about that in prior shows. But the thing that I thought was interesting about it is nobody was really wanting to talk that they were using this software, because it was almost top secret, that we didn't want people to know that we were using other resources to curate content. So I feel like it could have spread quicker, but it was almost like a hush-hush type of a vibe with it, to where it was like, well, let's not let people know that we're using this assistance, right? Because it was like very cool that we had it. So I think, and then when GPT chat came out, it was like, no, we're no longer going to hide this thing like this. Everybody needs to know about this.
Yeah, but I know
Right.
that if you go to my LinkedIn page, that I'm Java certified, and
Yeah.
From that. So,
Right.
I mean, I think, yes.
We
Right.
gotta keep
Because
going.
I think we want to go on because we have several other topics. So
yes.
another thing that was announced and that is really, really interesting, that is a model from Google DeepMind called Genie. Not to be confused with other models that are also called Genie. So, for example, from a company called Luma Labs, there is a Genie model, and that one can create 3D models from prompts. But this Genie model here is doing different things. This model
Granting
is very
wishes.
special. Not really. It's was trained basically on hours and hours of video game footage. So they trained it on 2D video platform games, like the 2D games where jumping around, collecting stuff, and so on. And now what this model can do is you just prompt this model one picture, and the model can turn this into a 2D platformer game. So you can have an input from a controller, and then if it's a Donkey Kong snapshot or whatever, you can play something like a little bit like Donkey Kong. So it learned how these mechanics, those game mechanics work, what's happening by watching those let's play videos or whatever. And
so
this
amazing.
is a new thing. Definitely.
So amazing. Like, to me, it's like all this art that's being generated, it really gets you to the point to where like you're looking at an image and you're like, what would this image look like if I could go in and experience it? I can't believe that we're already at the point where like you could literally take an image, could be in an art gallery, and all of a sudden now people are going to be able to walk through that and then experience whatever the experience we're talking about. Right now it's going to be 2D, but how long until it's going to be able to create a 3D world that you're going to be able to go in, and instead of it being 2D, I mean, that to me, it's how far away is that? But wow, impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive. It does raise some issues. I think as all of these AI programming tools do raise, and that is security, where, yes, one can put something together, but no, one is not aware of certain security issues, it could end badly. And the other thing is, I think it's great for games, and there are a few products out here that will build 3D worlds like we are in now, but they're all low poly, which is, to me, but of course, that trade-off between to access a world or access a space or game using a cell phone versus, having to have a gaming computer.
Right. I don't know if because your voice is breaking up in between. Yes, for sure. I mean, in this case, in my opinion, the model was trained definitely on 2D platform games. Those games are basically, I would say, easy to understand. They have a certain mechanics, like a little sprite, whatever, action figure is running around, jumping, things get collected, they disappear, they reappear. It has to jump over stuff and so on. So it's, in my opinion, quite easy to learn. I guess that this is just something like a basic test to see if they can train a model to understand interactivity. So I guess in the future, you can input a frame, an image of something, and get an interactive, whatever kind of tool or app maybe out of that. like give it a photo and it creates an app out of that where you can move objects or have an input text box or whatever kind of stuff. So I could imagine that they're going into this direction, and this is the first test.
No, definitely, definitely.
I mean, wow. I mean, to me, just I guess the thing is like we can break this thing down and be as critical as we want to be of it, but this is just what's being experimented with, and to just have one photo that this thing is taking this thing on, this is not like a series of photos like, hey, here's the hero, here's some of the people that it's going to encounter. Like you're giving it very basic information. So it's like, you know, where are we going to get when we can provide like 100 images and giving it thorough detail to where like, hey, you know, these people, hey, I wanted to make this game. And now all of a sudden you can give it all the information that it needs, and then it's going to be able to do it. Like, to me, this is like, whoa, like the data is moving so quickly. Like, so I guess this is where people would be scared of it. Because if you went back to like 1980 with this data that we are dealing with right now with creating a video game, like how much it took to do it at that point to like now off of just a picture, like it's just mind-blowing.
Definitely.
Well, I think the important thing about AI in general is that things that used to cost, you know, hundreds of thousands or millions or you know, hundreds of millions of dollars to do can now be done, you know, for far less. But we've seen, you know, that happen as technology evolves. Everything that, you know, took a long time or was difficult to do or expensive to do has become easier as technology has been integrated into, you know, the film industry.
Definitely. I mean, we saw that with the Sora model that generates video in our last show. 100%. People can do something with two others in a small team, what probably several years ago, a bunch of hundreds of visual effects technicians could do with a model like Sora in the future. And that is also possible for many other things like making images. And also here we have a new model. I just want to announce that basically, or it was announced by Stability AI. They do Stable Diffusion, and now they are pre-releasing Stable Diffusion 3. We had Stable Diffusion SDXL, and then we showed you last time Stable Cascade, and that was something in between of SDXL and Stable Diffusion 3. Now, Stable Diffusion 3 is available if you're interested. You have to go to the Stability AI website and apply for the beta access. And some people showed already some examples, and it's really, really cool. It's going much into the direction of DALL-E. It's very, very well listening to the prompt. It's very precise on your prompt. So this is just a note. That thing is on the way. It's not there yet. So just a small note, and we can jump on the next topic, basically. So what else did we want to talk about? Yeah, there is another interesting model, let's say, or an announcement. We will watch a little video for that. And that one is called Emo. And it comes from our friends from Alibaba. Alibaba is a big company in China, and that is something like, let's say, Amazon in the Western world, I would say, something in this direction. And yeah, they're also jumping on these video models. And we already tried that last year here in our show, making fake videos, for example, of Albert Einstein. So there was a text that I was speaking, and this audio file was given with a picture of Albert Einstein to a model, an AI model, and that created a video of him talking. And now Alibaba made a model that can do the same, but much better. It's called Emo because it can basically transfer emotions. And we will have a look at the video. I just have to turn the camera for that.
Yeah, you know
And
what, Chris, as you turn the camera for that, wow. I remember last year when you showed us, like, we were blown away with the visual, the way it was able to express. I thought it was really looking good last year. And then now to see what it's doing here, I mean, I don't know if you got it ready to go, but super impressive.
right, yeah. Thanks for that. So let's see how impressive the new stuff is here. I'm rolling the video.
I never knew you were the someone waiting for me. We were just kids when we fell in love, not knowing what it. When I was a kid, I feel like you heard the term, don't cry. You don't need to cry. Crying is the most beautiful thing you can do. I encourage people to cry. I cry all the time, and I think it's the most healthy.
I mean, when you look at that, was that it, or is there more? Sorry.
Some more is coming.
I can buy myself flowers, write my name in the sand, talk to myself for hours, say things you don't understand. If you don't wanna see me dancing with somebody, if you wanna believe that anything can stop me, don't show up, don't come out, don't start caring about me now.
The first thing that I get from that is there is a chance that I can sing in this life.
Yeah.
All we need to do is have a picture of me, and now I'm going to be able to sing because I prefer to dance.
Yeah, but that's a good point. Definitely, yes. If you want to be a pop star, and yeah, you can probably make your own fake videos, whatever. But it is really, really amazing, because I think that in this video, you could see these emotions, the interpretation of the text that was sung by these characters, because none of these persons, let's say, were real in any case. So yeah, it looks realistic. When someone would probably show me one of these video parts and did not tell me, well, this is a fake video, really hard to say, because yeah, eye expression,
Unless it
and
was the
mouth,
Mona
smile.
Lisa. Unless it was the Mona Lisa, Chris. Because with the Mona Lisa,
Well,
you know,
no.
we know that wouldn't be a real one, right?
It could be someone dressed. It could be an actress dressed like Mona Lisa. That's not a big deal today to do that, right? So hard to
I mean,
say.
that's true.
Well,
That's true.
you know, if it's definitely the painting, and you see that the painting is starting to talk, we know there are videos as well, sure. But in this case, it could be always an actress just dressed up and interpret that. But an AI, well, that's a different thing here, in my opinion.
It's
I think it's
definitely
really
gotten
interesting.
better. It is, you know, in the video that you shared, there wasn't this one. I don't know if you pulled this from that exactly. The lips, you could tell they're not perfect yet, but I mean, again, this is like cutting technology, cutting edge. So the language model, it's still learning what everything needs to do. You know, if it were to follow you speaking for like having a whole conversation and being trained off of you, I mean, that's what's coming. So it's going to just get better. But these initial, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it really, you know, to me, it's like, just even from being in the metaverse and VR and this whole thing, I'm enjoying watching it evolve, right? Like seeing these iterations from seeing what you showed us last year to where it's at now, just like a year later. it's some people they'd always be like, oh, it's just not good enough. Like when we were in alt space, like it's not good enough. It's like, well, how good does it need to be before you're going to be like, okay, this is now good enough for my standards? So I don't know. I feel like there's people at all different spectrums of it, but I think it's amazing watching it evolve.
Definitely. And it's going so fast that it's more and more amazing to see those nuances, these little things that take over, and that makes it more believable, especially in this case here. So yeah, it's really, really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that's really,
I love
is
Go ahead,
going.
John. Go ahead.
Yeah, Pika that can do lip sync now. None of it
Right.
is perfect yet, but it's getting there. And there are rumors that Sora will be partnering with 11 Labs, offering the same service, and so definitely going to be very interesting.
And
Right.
it's like having this conversation with you guys, and I know we're getting close to wrapping it up, but like even talking about this evolution, like our show, I feel like over these last few years, the topics that we've talked about and where everything has went, I think it's an amazing, that we've documented, these last kind of like all the new technologies coming out, navigating the metaverse, talking about so many different elements of this. I mean, I think that it's been amazing.
For sure, but we still have our topic to cover here, and that is basically the fear of AI. So, I mean, when
So I
you
didn't
see all
do a
these
good
news
job
here,
of talking about what I was scared about it. I guess, yeah, you got to play devil's advocate here because I just propped it up pretty strong. So now it's you and John. John will be good at giving a teardown of it as well. But yeah, go ahead. The floor is yours.
no, I mean, when you say you are amazed by it, that is not positive or negative. It's just like, wow, there is something happening. But the fear of AI, in my opinion, is different. It's behind all of that. It's behind this, wow, what's going on there? This is so interesting. You can say that also when you see something like a tank that is a very destructive element, let's say, right? And as whatever how amazing the technology in that can be, in the end it's killing people, right? And here the big question with AI is, well, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to society? We are always listening to these talks now about AGI, the general intelligence that is coming. So something that is definitely more intelligent like a human being and maybe is self-aware, nobody knows. And that's one of the biggest thing here. People don't know what's coming. They just see that computers can do things that before those technologies, just human beings were able to do. And now a computer can do that. So what does it mean for us? I think it means a lot because it can be a great help. But first, there will always be the fear of this thing is going to take something away from me. And this is because of our society and how the society is built. Because in our society, it's so important to have something, to have a good job, to have a lot of money, stuff like that. And maybe this technology could get, take it away from you. If that wouldn't be the case, if everyone would just have enough money and everything, a house and all this stuff, I guess that people would say, wow, this thing can do so many things for us. It's just positive. But people can lose things. That's the point, in my opinion. That's the fear.
Yeah,
No,
I mean, I'm sure these animators that had to spend like thousands of hours to just create this small little animation, to sit back and see what it's able to, what technology is able to do now, and imagine it's like we're just getting, I don't know, we're getting efficient, but I do want to hear John, because I know we need to keep this thing going, and I could drag this thing out, but it's the future. I feel like you're going to see the greater divide. You know, I'll cue John up with this. I feel like the divide is coming, right? Like the people who are pro AI, and then just like everything else in the world who are anti-AI, we need to put literally the genie back in the bottle, but the genie's already out. So here you go, John.
Yeah, but to me, the main point is that nothing has really changed, right? We could go back to an early technological development, the printing press, right, where the first time books were able to be printed, and for the first time the Bible was able to be printed, and the shitstorm that brought on was absolutely amazing. And then we could fast forward to the invention of the car, where that put a lot of people out of jobs. And every invention in terms of progress, people are going to lose their jobs. But the interesting thing to me is that one hears complaints about people losing jobs, and artists are definitely traditional artists, I should clarify that, have been up in arms about this, but not so much, right? I mean, people don't seem to be that disturbed by the fact that AI, or technology, I should say, because AI, I think, is just a part of technology, is going to replace. We've known for years and years and years that any task that can be repeated, so any repetitive task, making hamburgers, for instance, can be done by a robot. And so, we have known this has been coming for years and years. I mean, the difference that I'm seeing today is not to push back on, AI is taking over our jobs or that, but that, AI is not telling the truth. It's hallucinating. It's, the latest one, as everyone knows, is the Google, debacle. I mean, everyone's saying, oh, yeah, Google screwed up because someone asked for a prompt, put in a prompt that said founding fathers, and got, black people and Chinese people and women in, period clothing.
Right.
And, an AI can only do so much. If you put in something called founding fathers, you need to expect some sort of range. I mean, if you specify and say, and I did this, so I did founding fathers, and I, got, black person, and actually I got an American Indian, and a black person, and a Chinese person. And, if one really looks at the United States and how this country developed, one could say that it was developed on the backs of black people and Chinese people. And, women were defranchised and, fought for their rights. And so, if I was AI, I might think that those cultural groups or racial groups or whatever, are important in the founding of this country. So.
Well, and don't disregard the American Indian. I mean, let's face it. How many years were they here before we even got here? So, and I don't think we acknowledge them enough. It's like we're, as Americans, we've taken this over, but, what is left of their founding of this thing? So I would battle back right away and say, they can try to push whatever, but I mean, to not credit them, they were here, we don't even know how long before us.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, you're 100% right, because as an interpretation, those images are great somehow, because those people are, or they would have been founding fathers. But I guess that the question was different. They wanted to have a picture of George Washington or maybe Abraham Lincoln or whatever, and they didn't get what they wanted, basically. I think that's the point. Like, the model still
100%.
hadn't got enough information. But you're completely right. The interpretation is good. So in this case, it's not negative. It's just like, well, we might not get exactly what we expected. And this is one of the
You know,
things
yep.
when we think about
It's
politics here, right? It might be dangerous when people are starting to use ChatGPT to get informed about the next election. Like, oh, what did
oh
this
yeah.
politician say about that? And then they start to hallucinate. That
Oh
can be
no.
dangerous.
100%. Like I hung out with somebody and I was like, what question do you want to ask GPT chat? And it inquired about the Hunter Biden laptop, which is a super controversial, like, oh, how are you going to assess this? And I thought it was a very interesting interpretation because it could not give any definitive answers, but it like towed this very narrow road of like observing what was going on both sides without necessarily coming to a conclusion. So I was very impressed with, it's the way it analyzed the data.
Yeah, but ultimately it comes back to critical thinking that, every day not a day goes by where I don't file a complaint with somebody about, a news story that has been so that, it's no longer the truth. It's the truth that someone is trying to put out. And so,
their opinion. People are pushing, I feel like, their opinions, right? And it's like, yes.
More than an opinion.
Okay.
I don't personally believe that one can have an opinion that, that racism is good, for instance. I mean, that is not an opinion. That is just totally wrong. And for anyone to publish anything that alludes to that, I believe is totally wrong. So, people sure can have opinions, but, and this goes back to Google and, all of this where, I think Google did take responsibility and try to tune the model so it wouldn't be, racist, but one also needs to realize that the material that these LLMs are trained on for the most part, are books and publications and, stuff that appears on the web that easily could make a LLM.
Oh yeah.
That, people are racist by nature, and
oh yeah, there's movies. 100%, John. How many movies that are made to where it's like this? Do people say it right now? Oh, this movie couldn't get made today. Like there's just, I'm not going to give the energy to any examples, but we're in such a sensitive state as a culture to where like, even from a comedy standpoint, we can't offend this person. We can't offend this person. And what has been even something you could joke about, you can't joke about now. Or if you watch that stuff, you're like, man, these people were racist. It's like, yeah, that's a whole can of worms that you're completely right. Like we're rewriting that stuff of what's good and what's not good and, what you can say and what you can't say. It's very interesting.
Yeah, so I really believe that at the moment AI is somehow this clash with our society and values, basically. So we have a new entity now, and I guess that a lot of people think that this super intelligence in the future will be able to be might solve problems or have better ideas and whatever. I don't really think so, but well. And now it might just get to points that it shows us where human beings are really, let's say, ambiguous, just to say like that, right? Human beings are doing things that are really hard to understand for a logical being, let's say, right? So I think this is going to be very interesting. But at the moment, what we do with AI is we are growing an intelligence just on our own data. So it will just be able to know stuff that we created before. and our knowledge and our data is, well, imperfect, let's say it like that. So we will see what's getting out there. And this is the question, if this is for more fear or less. I don't know.
So for me, I feel like based on that point, with what's positive, what's negative, we're doing a topic on what people are afraid of. And, unfortunately, if we were to do something on why is everything so amazing with what's going on, people only we have this as humans, it seems like the programming has, we need to give attention to what we need to be afraid of and what we need to, be aware of what's going on over here and look at what's wrong with it instead of what's right with it. Because in this virtual worlds that are being exist in, we could create some positive spaces that are made to uplift, empower, and it doesn't have this negativity to where, like, you watch the news, it seems like if I were to rate a percentage, and I think it's very interesting, I think, like, what percentage of the news is negative? And it's like, is it 60, 70, 80, 90%? Like, they got maybe one feel-good story, and then it's just like all this gloom and doom. Like, why is all of this fear being pushed instead of it being more like a 50-50 thing? Like, hey, here's some of the good stuff going on. Like, so I feel like us as humans, like the people running everything, why do they continue to, like, they know what they're doing with all of this stuff. So to me, I question it as, why can't we be in more balance and alignment? And that's what I want
to. And we are imperfect. I mean, it's 2024, and it's hard for me to believe, coming from South Africa where, abortion, for instance, was like totally banned and you could go to prison and everything else, to a country that has now decided that in vitro fertilization is actually a live human being. And there's just so much ignorance out there. I am totally blown away by, and to your question about the news, no one is going to watch news about good things. I mean, news stations will throw it in occasionally, but every news station, newspaper, news outlet, their biggest wish is a disaster and having somebody, on scene to take film or video and report, that attracts attention. Someone doing a good deed, nobody wants to hear about that in this world. And, it's just insanity. I mean, here in the United States, Chris, you're probably aware of the fact that, there's numbers of people that still deny the 2022 election, which,
right,
to me is so bizarre that we live in this world where we create our own reality, and yet we, get totally freaked out and blown away when GPT, can hallucinate or come up with some fake information. But, as long as we humans create the misinformation, that's fine. We can lie. In fact, I mean, here in the United States, and I don't know if there's any other country that this has happened in, I should check. The Supreme Court ruled that it is perfectly okay and legal for a politician to lie. So a politician can say anything they want. They can fabricate anything they want and cannot be held to account for saying that. And yet,
well, that is why we have a circus, John. That is the true, like, when you put that bulletin board material, that is the exact reason why there is a circus right now, because there's no accountability. And the one comment that I want to have to say is, when you were like, nobody wants to see this type of news, the people that do want to see it, watch the news. There's plenty of people like me. I'm one that I just can't feed into that anymore because of all the negativity. So you know what? I choose to not watch it. And I think that there's a lot of people that I've talked to even, they no longer watch the news. That's why the ratings are down so much with news watching, because people, there's a good percentage of the population that just this no longer serves them. They don't want to give it attention.
Right. Well, okay. So this is probably a discussion we can do at another time about news and what's it about and all of that. And I think, yeah, we are definitely running out of time here. So this was another interesting talk, I have to say. Thanks for that. John, something in closing?
Yes, thank you very, very much for watching today. We really appreciate it. And, I have to take the blame for this because I totally spaced out that we changed our programming from an hour to 30 minutes. And so I've been looking at the clock and thinking, okay, yeah, we have 15 more minutes to go. So I apologize for that. And, we will work on the time. I will work on the time. I will take responsibility. And we're here in Spatial every 2 weeks doing a show on new technologies. We are, however, also looking at VR chat as an alternative venue, but we encourage you to visit our YouTube channel, which is at Virtual Film Company on YouTube. We also have a Facebook page, which is quite active, and a LinkedIn page, which is not so active, but we would really appreciate people getting involved. We make movies in VR. So again, thank you everyone for watching.
Thanks. See you next time. Bye-bye.